phone rings. It's one of these fact check organizations. They're all left-wing. Saw you this morning on Fox and Friends, and you said in 1900, government at all three levels took less than 10%. Do you have a source? I said, no, I pulled it out of my butt. That's what I did. I gave him a source. And now you say government right now takes 32%. Do you have a source? I gave them a source. To their credit, they said, oh, it was right. And my point is, these were young people, probably in their 30s. They had no blooming idea how much bigger government has gotten, to the point where the founding fathers would be spinning in their grave. My father is a World War II Marine vet. And I took him to the VA. And the doctor who operated on him, or was attending to him, had a tag, and it said, Olasky. And I said to her, are you related to Marvin Olasky? Her eyes got as big as silver dollars. She said, why are you asking me this? I said, well, there was a book by a guy named Marvin Olasky called The Tragedy of American Compassion. She said, did you like the book? And I said, yes. Her whole body language changed. She said, he's my cousin. And I've gotten a lot of grief because of that book. Don't know if you know the book, but the book looked at families during the Great Depression that took the welfare that was done by the New Deal, by FDR, and families that were eligible for it but didn't take it for reasons of pride, maybe took another job, whatever. And they tracked them to find out which family 10 years, 15 years from then was better off. And you know where I'm going with the story. The family that did not take the government aid was better off than the family that did. There is a book that we all read in high school called Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville. And it's all about the mutual aid societies all over America. This Frenchman was amazed at how Americans were all pitching in, setting up these mutual aid societies, providing health care for people without government intervention. What a lot of people don't know about is he wrote another book called Memoirs on Pauperism a few years later. And he traveled all around the world, which was rare in those days because traveling was expensive. And he noticed that the wealthiest country in the world at the time was Great Britain, and they had the largest number of beggars and people who were homeless. And he thought that was inconsistent. And it turned out England was the first guaranteed state that provided welfare. And it created all sorts of unintended consequences. And Tocqueville said, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I know the answer is not to give people stuff because you incentivize bad behavior, you get more of it. 1965, 25% of black kids entered the world without a father in the home married to the mother. It triggered a booklet called The Negro Family, A Case for National Action, written by a guy named Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who was a Democrat, who later on ran for and got elected to Senate from New York. And he said 25% was outrageous. Going to have all sorts of unintended consequences. Dropouts, crime, poverty. Lyndon Johnson launched the so-called War on Poverty in 1965. Fast forward, 70% today of black kids enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. 50% of Hispanic kids do. 25% of white kids do, which was the same figure as was the case as the blacks back in 1965. Now 40% of all kids in America enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. What's happened? We've incentivized women to marry the government. We've incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And now we've got this problem. How do we solve it? I liken it to AA. If you're a recovering alcoholic, you have a sponsor. Someone you can call, provide guidance, counseling, you feel a moment of weakness. There are a bunch of men right now who are retired with plenty of time on their hands. Every single one of these kids growing up without a father ought to have some sort of sponsor and some sort of mentor. And when I become president, I'm going to be encouraging that kind of volunteerism. Also, we're spending all this money on welfare, and when you send $1 to the government, and it gets back down to the intended beneficiary. Maybe 30 cents of the dollar gets down to the intended beneficiary. I volunteered for a whole summer once for United Way, full time. 85, 90 cents on the dollar gets down to the intended beneficiary because so many people are working as volunteers. So it's inefficient aside from the fact that government-provided welfare often will not alter behavior to make people more independent. So we ought to be able to direct our own tax dollars to institutions in our own neighborhoods, churches, synagogues, mosques, people that are doing this kind of work. We ought to be able to check off on your tax return where you want those dollars to go, and I'll be encouraging that when I become president. In 1985, the LA Times asked poor people and non-poor people the following question: do people on welfare have additional children to get additional money? The majority of the non-poor said no. They probably thought it was insulting, probably thought it was demeaning. 64% of poor people said yes. The people who are poor on welfare know far more about whether or not welfare creates a crutch or creates dependency than non-poor people. They're telling you what it's doing to them. Now, in 1940, 87% of blacks lived below the poverty level. 87%. 20 years later, 1960, it was 47%. A 40-point drop in 20 years. The greatest 20-year period of economic growth for blacks in the history of America. This is before the 1964 Civil Rights Act, before affirmative action, before set-asides. Why? It was rare for a black kid to enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. A strong belief in Judeo-Christian values, a strong belief in entrepreneurship, and a strong belief in American values, even if those values were not being applied fairly to black people. Fast forward, we have an organization called Black Lives Matter. On their website, they attack the nuclear intact family. They were founded by self-described trained Marxists. Marx did not believe in God, wanted to dethrone God, and of course did not believe in private property and did not believe in entrepreneurship. So all the factors that allow black people to continue to grow in the face of the KKK, in the face of Jim Crow, right after slavery, are now under attack by organizations like Black Lives Matter, which were embraced by Barack Obama. Tupac Shakur, in a documentary called Resurrection, said, and I'm quoting, "I know for a fact that had I had a father, I would have been more disciplined, I would have been more confident." Tupac Shakur, the poet of the streets, saying the same thing I'm saying. Nobody's calling him the black face of white supremacy. Denzel Washington did a film called Roman Israel Esquire. He was promoting the film. He was on the red carpet. And some reporter, she was black, puts a mic in his face. The movie was about a black criminal justice lawyer. And she said, "What is your opinion about all these black people who are being warehoused by our criminal justice system?" And she expected Denzel Washington to give the normal, what I call Victor answer. The man is rounding up black people, putting them behind bars for no reason other than they're black, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say that at all. He said it all starts in the home. If you don't have appropriate guidance, the court becomes your father and the jails become your home. I saw it in my neighborhood, he said. I saw it in every generation. And the reporter looked as if she got hit in the face with a 2x4. There are think tanks on the left, like the Brookings Institution, arguably the most prominent, best funded think tank on the left. And there are think tanks on the right, like the American Enterprise Institute. They disagree about all sorts of things, but they agree about one thing: the formula to escape poverty. Step one, finish high school. One presumably where you can read, write, and compute at grade level, which is why I support school choice. There are 13, this is not a little thing. There are 13 public high schools in Baltimore where 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. Another 1% another six where only 1% can. So half of the high schools in Baltimore, all located in the inner city, either 0% or only 1% of the kids can do math at grade level. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 53 public schools in Chicago, 0% of the kids can do math at grade level, all located in the inner city. Nationwide, there's something called the National Report Card. That's called the National Assessment of Educational Policy. It's called the National Report Card. You teachers in the crowd know what I'm talking about. 85% of black 8th graders, these are 13-year-old